Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you guys my Zodiac Time Beast Demiurge deck profile for March 2018. This is one of the first decks with post BT14 that I wanted to do an update for, just because we received a pretty good amount of Zodiac Time Beast support in this set that it really benefited to Demiurge as well as the original Chronojet deck. It just makes the deck so much easier. I'm able to get two Demiurge basically on the second stride if everything is done correctly. So let's go ahead and jump right into the deck profile. To start off, I run two Deus Ex Machina Demiurge. It's the main card of the deck, and the whole point of him is placing 12 different Zodiac Time Beasts from your bind zone to the drop zone. And if you do, you choose 12 cards from your drop zone and place them on top of your deck in any order that you wish. So basically, you set up for your game with this card. I run two just because there are situations where your opponent can either survive the turn, or they can either not be enough basically to finish them off. And it is possible to get a second one off, because one, you don't really deck out after putting 12 cards back, and you can just basically start the whole bind process over again with your cards if this doesn't work out. And most of the time, if you have doubles in your bind zone, you can just save those for later and still have enough to reach the 12 and then just continue off where you left off there. I also run two Metal Pulsar Alter Dragon. The best card for setup for your Zodiac Demiurge plays is this card. It just helps because the cost for striding into him can be a counterblast and then binding a Zodiac Time Beast. Then he places two additional ones with his own effect. And then getting power and countercharge benefits from flipping something up in the G zone are just full-on bonus to this guy overall, aside from the fact that he puts 3 cards in the bind zone, like I said. And I also run 4 Metal Pulsar Avenir Phoenix, just a good backup stride to go into basically with this card. Rearguard Calling, which is the biggest weakness of the deck since you're save everything for your bind plays. That's the one thing that could suffer the most. So running 4 of this just really help, like I said, with your field consistency. And I also run 2 Interdimensional Dragon Ragnarok. I like this guy still just because you can set up your trigger checks and your draws and your damage all to your liking. So come next turn when you go into a stride, if you're not ready for another Demiurge, you can basically go into Ragnarok and still know what your trigger lineup will be if you have enough triggers to put back on top of your deck with Demiurge for the second stride in the row, and then hit for big numbers along with the additional crit with Ragnarok. Because most of the time your opponent's going to waste up a lot of the resources trying to guard the Demiurge play and not be ready for a stride next turn. And then I also run 1 Ergos and 1 Fate Rider. Most of the time I just unflip these with the Altar Dragon, so I don't really go into them too much. I just like to have unflip options for that stride. And then for G-Guards, I run 1 Uluru, good for the putback from the drop zone. If I have units I really don't need to bind because I have doubles of. And 1 Pandora Chimera helps with the basic problems of my opponent's back row, so it comes in handy at times. And I also run 2 Pulsar Saver Ilishu. She's very good now in the deck just because you have so many cards in the bind zone, so reaching her shield is very easy altogether with the deck. And that is it for the stride zone. Moving on to the main deck. 4 Pulsar Drastic Colossus. This is your main unit that you want on your Vanguard. It sets up so many of your plays with its on Vanguard place ability, revealing the top 3 cards, then for the hand, drop zone, and the bind zone. And then the on stride effect, lets you draw a card, then bind a card. So 2 bind effects all in one, and then a plus 1000 power effect for every card in your bind zone. Just adds to the power of Altar Dragon as well, and Demiurge in total. For bigger numbers, it's really the best stride to use for Demiurge. The best grade 3 to use for Demiurge in my opinion. And for backup, running 3 Pulsar Proceed Sheep. This card was released in the newest pack, so what it is, it's not a generation break effect. You can use it early game if possible. If you go first and you haven't strode, you counterblast 1, bind this unit face up, draw a card, choose a card from your drop zone, bind it face up. So you get this card and an additional card for bind. It's just way too good. Plus you draw, so you make up for calling this. But I've used this on the turn I strode Demiurge just to reach that 12. And the fact that you draw means you could be open up to other options that could help you with the bind. And also choosing one in your drop zone, just an additional assistance that really helps with the deck. Only weakness is if you ever have to ride it, but you have plenty of ways, like with your Draco Kid to search out your Colossus, so you never really have to go into this into the Vanguard, and try to avoid it all possible if you do. For grade 2s, I run 3 Pulsar Metal Party Dragon. It's just the better ride target, in my opinion, and he's not really too restricted, and he has an additional bind assistance. He can't attack if the number of cards in your bind zone is 0, but with your starter, you should have a card in your bind zone by the time you ride this card anyway, so it's not really too much of a limit. It's just kind of better, in my opinion, than Chrono Spin, since he's a 10k without ability, and this one is. And you, like how I said, have that bind effect from the boost if you really need to later game to help reach that 12 cards in bind zone. And I also run 2 Pulsar Tamer Manish, an additional unit with resist if need be. It also has, when it attacks, you may have this unit get plus 2,000 to the end of the turn for each of your other Zodiac Time Beasts. If you do at the end of the battle, bind this card, so additional bind effect for the attack. Just having all these options for bind with your units speeds the deck up so much, so she's a definite help. And same with Pulsar Rewind Tiger. It's not a generation break effect, so using its bind effect for power and the additional plus 2,000 power early game, you can basically rest your starter because its effect doesn't really rely on boosting, and if you don't need it for the attack boost, it's just very handy altogether. And then the bind the top card of your deck. All the cards in your deck are Zodiac Time Beasts, so unless you hit a double off of the starter effect, he always comes in handy. Plus 2 Chrono Beat Buffalo, just an additional backup grade 2 that I enjoy to use. It has the plus 2 effect if you have a grade 3 or greater Zodiac Time Beast, so it could be a potential 11k on rear guard, but just a different option, grade 2, since I want to keep my numbers high on different ones to run. Same to finish up the grade 2s with 2 Pulsar Valve Laser Dragon. If the number of cards in your bind zone is 1 or less, this unit cannot attack a Vanguard. So he's not as limited to the 10k. He can still attack a rear guard if possible, but you still should be able to successfully reach those numbers. But most of the time, since I'm only running 2 of this, you don't really have to ride it on the Vanguard or have that problem. Most of the time, I'll hit Party Dragon, Buffalo, or something else at least, and not him, if that issue does arise. And then moving on to grade 1s, I run 1 Pulsar Tamer Dagon and 3 Arca, just to keep the number different but consistent with Zodiac Time Beasts and easy perfect guards. It's a quintet wall, but it actually fills up the drop zone, and it has some pretty good shield power. All your other Zodiac Time Beast Guardians get plus 10,000, so it's basically almost an unhittable shield, and those numbers can help in situations where you're fighting things like Fightus, where you can't guard with 1 card, other ones where it's just a 1 card option, and then the Arca is still good because her bind effect helps set up for Demiurge, obviously, and the putback effect. But 3 is good because most of the time I'll either damage 1, but then have the other 2 in the drop zone, or, late game, grab into the other one, and the other one's already bind, but still have that putback option. And also 3 Pulsar Revolver Draco Kid. This is Stride Fodder, for one thing, which helps in this deck, but it's also Zodiac Time Beast, the one thing it has over Steam Breath Dragon, but it helps because it can search for Colossus, which I always want on my Vanguard, by revealing my other Zodiac Time Beast and then searching for the proper one, obviously. So very nice. I kept it 3 though, so I can keep the grade 1 difference to what I think is the best number in the deck. I also run 3 of the new Pulsar Spring Rabbit. Its bind draw effect is just as good as the Deer. It's a generation break, though, so you have to make use of that, obviously. But you choose another Zodiac Time Beast rear guard, bind it, and when this is placed on rear guard, you may pay the cost. If you do, draw a card and soul charge 1. So you make up for the soul blast with the soul charge, but the draw card and bind effect also makes up for the unit you lost. And also 2 Chronotheos Jackal, sorry about that. Same concept as Buffalo, 11k attacker for Generation Break. So good on his own, but also just a different Zodiac Time Beast to run altogether. And also 2 Pulsar Tamer Napata. It's an intercept from the back row. It also has resist if it's rest, or not so much resist as it can't be chosen by your opponent's card effects. So another protection there and different Zodiac Time Beast. And now for the starter, I run 2 Pulsar Sentry Draco Kid. I just really like when I open up 2 of this guy because he speeds up the bind effect so much faster. And he has a second Soul Blast Retire effect. If you have a Gear Colossus Vanguard, you bind the top card of your deck face up. And if it's a Zodiac Time Beast, you draw a card. So you're guaranteed to draw additional bind as well if you want to get off that second effect if need be. But each turn, that bind speeds up so much faster until you go into your stride. And he almost guarantees the unflip for the Altered Dragon. And for triggers, I run 4 Pulsar Bombard Hog. It's an unflip effect, which comes in handy a lot, and it's a bind effect as well instead of a put into soul effect, so you can have that bind easy from this crit if you want. And I don't have any of the Buffalo, or I think it's a Bull trigger where it's the put into soul +3. I would substitute it for either the Boar or the Chrono Valley, but I still like running the 2 different kinds of criticals, just for, like I said, those bind options. Sometimes, you know, if you bind one and you bind the same one, your options are lower when you end up, you know, with just these kind of numbers. Same with the draws, 2 Chrono Days Sheep and 2 Pulsar Fickle Monkey. And for the heals, I have 2 Chronotherapy Hamster and 2 Nem. If you want to try the new heal by taking out the old hamsters, you can do that as well. For that bind effect, but I still like the 2 and 2 numbers for the heals, just to keep the numbers different, for consistency of the different 12s. Because the biggest weakness of the deck is that you will end up with the same things in the G-Zone too much, but I think I've reached a pretty good difference number for everything that rarely happens, and you'll get what you need, basically, with everything in the deck. But yeah, that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Once again, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And until next time, Kira Qualia out.